Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to warmly welcome you to the launch event of the international platform Integrative and Transformative Research on Earth and Society's InTRES. I would like to extend my special thanks to Barbara Sturm, Vice President of Leibniz Association, for her kind support of the event, and to our 4 international renowned speakers for kindly accepting our invitation. Together, I think they make this event something very special. And I wish you all truly inspiring hour. Now, as you all know, the global socio-ecological crisis, the polycrisis, can be observed, can be analyzed, and in the meantime also experienced by most of the people. And the dimensions, complexity, and dynamics of the changing Earth system and societies interrelationships call for scientific advice in a new dimension, which is relevant for societies and politics, as for policymakers it's difficult to oversee the degree of the development. Of course, there are some current research efforts ongoing, and the focus mostly is on assessments and on the derivation of preventive interventions for mitigation and adaptation. But we assume that more action and impact-oriented approaches are required from the scientific community, as well as innovations, which consistently take into account Earth's limits and basic societal goals. Against this backdrop, the mission of the InTRES platform is to establish a network of international researchers from the natural sciences, engineering, social science, and the humanities that advances and promotes integrative and transformative research on Earth and societies and their interlinkages through interdisciplinary collaboration and transdisciplinary dialogue. So far, and of course this is up to the future development of the platform, 3 goals have been formulated. The first one is to advance the understanding of the system, the Earth system and society's interlinkages across spatial and temporal scales and societal levels. So this might require a kind of multi-systemic approach. Second, to identify science-based rationales for setting societal goals and targets, as for example, the planetary boundary have been formulated, but so far they have not been institutionalized, and therefore this also would cover to analyze the institutional arrangements for negotiating, implementing, and monitoring those goals and targets. And last but not least, as a kind of transformation knowledge, to identify and explore levers and capacities of transformations that consider the Earth system society's interlinkages, so the system knowledge, and the science-based and societal goals and targets for sustainable Anthropocene. And for this purpose, I'm very happy that we have this launch event of the platform. And as you have seen from our invitation and from the website of the InTRES platform, our program today starts with the welcome address of the Vice President of Leibniz Association, Barbara Sturm. Then there will be 4 key messages, one from the Earth Commission given by Johan Rockström, one from the United Nations University Institute for Natural Resources in Africa, Fatima Denton, then a key message from the Stockholm Resilience Centre, from the line Gordon, the director, and finally a key message from the Center for Climate and Development at Alex Chukwumerije Federal University Ndufu Alike Ikwo from Chukwumerije Okereke, the director. And we will end with a perspective of one of the early career researchers already actively engaged in the development of the platform, and also a way forward presented from the scientific coordinator of the Leibniz Research Network, Earth and Societies, Rachid Shehaya. With this, I would like to hand over to Barbara Sturm Barbara Sturm is the Scientific Director and Chair of Board of the Leibniz Institute for Agricultural Engineering and Bioeconomy, ATB, in Potsdam, Germany, and Professor for Agricultural Technology in Bioeconomic Systems at Humboldt University in Berlin. And today she is welcoming us in her role as Vice President of the Leibniz Association.
Thank you, Jochen. Dear colleagues, distinguished guests, and friends joining us from all corners of the globe. It is my privilege to also welcome you to the official launch of InTRES on behalf of the entire Leibniz Association. Today marks a milestone, and for me personally, in particular, because I'm also the spokesperson for sustainability within the Leibniz Association. So this topic is very close to my heart. I want to extend my deep gratitude to Jochen and the entire Leibniz Research Network, Earth and Societies, for their tireless work on this and for steering our collective path forward. We are also profoundly honored today to be joined by an exceptional lineup of internationally renowned scientific leaders. Thank you very much for your participation and for your insights. I just have to caveat the introduction of Johan, because he might be here in one of his roles, but as the Leibniz Vice President, I have to point out he is also director of one of the Leibniz Institutes here in Potsdam. Thank you so much, all of you, for participating in the event and bringing your vital core messages to the platform participants today. Your presence underscores the truly global, interconnected nature of the challenge we are tackling. We do not meet in a vacuum, as we all know. We are living through an intensifying socio-ecological crisis. The pressures on our planet's life support systems are accelerating, and the consequences for human societies are becoming more severe by the day. And we experience this in Potsdam over the next few weeks with up to 40 degrees. Up until now, the scientific response to this crisis has mainly been characterized by intensive, thematically focused, and often scale-specific research. While this specialized knowledge is fundamental and absolutely critical, we have reached a point where it is no longer enough. There is an urgent growing need for a broader approach to both research and knowledge transfer. We must fiercely accelerate integrative and transformative research methodologies. On the one hand, we need to systematically assess the highly complex nonlinear interactions between societies and the Earth system. On the other hand, and perhaps most critically, science must actively support and guide societal transformation. The Leibniz Association recognizes this responsibility. A large number of our institutes are already deeply dedicated to these exact needs, championing inter and transdisciplinary research and driving vital knowledge transfer into society. In fact, earth science, environmental science, and sustainability represent three crucial cross-cutting topics that span across the entire Leibniz Association, linking our diverse institutes in a shared ecological mission. To systematically strengthen this cooperation, we utilize a variety of powerful internal instruments, including our thematic research networks, research alliances, and our newly established Leibniz Labs. A prime example for this is the Leibniz Lab Systemic Sustainability, which Jochen coordinates. Within this very lab, I also have the privilege to co-lead the core area of innovation and local contextualization of innovation. Through efforts like these, we are bringing our traditional motto, Theoria cum praxi, or science for the benefit of society, right back into sharp focus. We are ensuring that high-level sustainability theory is directly translated into practical and locally relevant solutions. However, given the sheer scale of the global challenges and the immediate pressure to act, further international networking for research has become of paramount importance. Recognizing this, the Leibniz Research Network, Earth and Societies, submitted the successful proposal to the Leibniz Association to prepare and establish an international platform. And with today's launch event, the InTRES platform is officially opened. InTRES is designed to be a collaborative space that internationally bridges diverse scientific backgrounds. It encompasses conceptual foundations, empirical studies, and real-world transformation experiments. By connecting the global south and the north across multiple spatial and temporal scales, we aim to generate system, target, and transformation knowledge our world so desperately needs. As we embark on this journey today, I want to express my highest hopes and wishes for InTRES. First, I wish for a great, vibrant interest in this platform from researchers and institutes globally. Second, I hope it yields highly targeted, new, and above all, action-oriented insights. And finally, I wish this platform clear and distinct success in transferring these insights directly into politics, administration, the economy, and civil society. Thank you all for bringing your passion, your expertise, and your collaborative spirit to InTRES. Thank you and welcome to InTRES.
Thank you very much, Barbara Sturm, for your very kind and supportive words. I think this is very important for us to have the backing of the Leibniz Association to host this initiative. I would like to hand over to our second speaker. This is Johan Rockström, as already mentioned from Barbara Sturm. He's director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research and professor in Earth System Science at the University of Potsdam, Germany. He's an internationally recognized scientist on global sustainability and Earth resilience. He led the development of the Planetary Boundaries Framework and is deeply involved in research on the future trajectories of the Anthropocene and tipping points in the Earth system. Johan Rockström is a key figure of very numerous international scientific initiatives, and today will provide us with his view as co-chair of the Earth Commission. Johan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Johan. And I am particularly proud to be part of this launch of InTRES, not only as co-chairs of the Earth Commission, which I co-chair, by the way, with Fatima Denton, who is with us here as well, but definitely on the point that Barbara made, that I'm a proud director of one of the Leibniz Institute's PIC. So this is a very special event because the whole integrated world Earth transformative research agenda we at PIC and I personally think is one of the absolute top priorities now and in the years to come. And the reason for this as a starting point is unfortunately that we must now, I think, start communicating more clearly that we're not only in the Anthropocene. It's not only that we have these hockey stick acceleration curves that are impacting across the entire Earth system. We are deep into the Anthropocene. We are seeing so many signs today of reaching a saturation point where we're hitting the biophysical ceiling of the capacity of the Earth system to uphold and maintain life support systems for all species and for humanity. That we're seeing the first signs of a scientific area that is really at the frontier, but the first signs of a planet losing resilience. And that this gradual, so far, loss of capacity to deliver on all the functions and services that humanity depends on creates such a strong interface, which we are experiencing right now with the European heat wave. I don't know if you saw the TF1 weather presenter yesterday with just a phenomenally important sequence where the anchor weather reporter showed her weather presentation from 2014 when they were facing a heat wave, then saying that the latest science, which is a correct reference, the latest science in 2014 showed that the worst case scenarios was that Paris would reach 40 degrees Celsius sometime around 2050. And she replayed that sequence in TF1 and then came into the studio and showed that we are already in 2026 drastically breaching even that worst case scenario, which was supposed to hit in one generation. What does this mean? Well, it means that we scientifically have underestimated the pace of change. We're underestimating the complexity of the interactions and feedbacks in the functioning of the entire Earth system. And this is very worrying because it's really at the frontier of integrated Earth system research, which is exactly what the Earth Commission addresses by being a global scientific assessment mechanism for the planetary boundary science, which is grounded in Earth system science, answering the key question: what is our scientific understanding on the biogeophysical processes that regulates the capacity of the Earth system to remain in a Holocene-like interglacial basin of attraction, which is the only state of the planet we know for certain can support the world as we know it, the people and equity, dignity and prosperity that we know. But the Earth Commission goes beyond that. The Earth Commission has added the dimension of justice and also quantifies for the first time along all the control variables, well, actually still not all, but in the next phase we are aiming to quantify all of the control variables across all the planetary boundaries on what is, from the social sciences, the maximum acceptable levels of significant harm to people, which, and I won't go through that in detail, but as you can imagine, that gives very strong scientific support that our safe operating space, when you add justice, shrinks even further because people suffer before the planet irreversibly changes its functions. But we're also translating the planetary boundaries into operational toolboxes for business, cities, countries, communities. And I'm sure that perhaps both Lena Gordon here and Fatima may come back to that. We're also addressing political dimensions, governance, and finally, perhaps the most exciting parts, which InTRES is addressing heads on, namely what are the opportunities we have for positive transitions to accelerate transformations back to a safe and just landing zone for humanity on a stable planet. This is undoubtedly the frontier research agenda for us today, and it's fantastic that the InTRES platform is now offering a place for interdisciplinary frontier scientists to really work together in addressing this central topic for us to have a chance of navigating the Anthropocene, which is becoming increasingly turbulent and to hand back to Johan, as you pointed out, more and more looking like a polycrisis. Back to you, Johan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johan Rockström, for this very important perspective of the Earth Commission, which is orientation for us. At the same time, we want to support the initiatives and activities of the Earth Commission by providing this particular pillar, which we assume could be our field of activity, the action-oriented and transformative research. With this, I would like to welcome the next speaker. The next speaker, according to the agenda, is Fatima Denton. Fatima is the director of the United Nations University Institute for Natural Resources in Africa, UNU-INRA in Accra, Ghana, and vice chair of the IPCC's working group 2. She, as we just learned, is also involved in the Earth Commission, and she will provide us with a contribution based on her depth of expertise in natural resources management, research and policy development, and the African region. Fatima, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Johan, and it's a pleasure to be here. Attending the London Climate Week, and it's as Johan was talking about the heat, but just to basically say that I'm really happy to be here and happy to see familiar faces at this very important launch. So congratulations, Johan, on the launch. I want to rather just sort of focus my short intervention, because I think the name that you have chosen is very appropriate. But I want to see if I could just sort of delve into that with a few words on my hope for the platform, and what the platform can deliver. Obviously, the launch of a new platform often gives us an opportunity to ask simple questions. And here the question for me would be, how do we begin to find optimism in an age of planetary instability? Barbara has already alluded to some of that, and Johan as well has reinforced it in his own intervention. For me, the answer lies in three words, and I'm really happy to see that those three words are part of your name. So in terms of baptism, this is it's a very nice set of names. Let me start with the first word, or first set of words rather. And this is about transformative research. I believe that transformative research should do more than just describe what today's realities rather, or tomorrow's aspiration should be. I think if we do it properly, and we are a little bit blasé with this word, it's become part of our sustainability vocabulary. But transformative research should, I believe, help us challenge prevailing assumptions. It should help us also ask some very different set of questions that would connect the disciplines. And Barbara's alluded to that, the necessity to have this sort of integrative, connective tissue across all these different disciplines. It should also help us, I believe, imagine what societies could do, and also to help us navigate the types of futures that we want, the different type of futures that we want. But I think it should also help us understand change. Not only just understand change, but also help us in terms of how do we shape it. We're living in this extraordinary convergence of crises, and we know them very well, so I wouldn't go into them too much. But, you know, climate disruption is one of them, the biodiversity loss that we see across the world. And this is not helped with the geopolitical fragmentation as well, and a great deal of economic uncertainty, which we're seeing also an increased number of conflict and war. But I think the mistake we sometimes make is when we look at all these separate crises we look at these crises in a very separate way, in a very kind of parallel way, because they're not separate, they're not parallel, they're very much deeply interconnected, and they're mutually reinforcing. So if we understand them properly and we're able to respond to them, I think this would help us think about a new kind of system change, and the transformative kind of knowledge that we need, that this platform should help generate. So we need new knowledge. I mean, oftentimes when we talk about knowledge, we talk about new knowledge, but really in the current crisis that we face, we do need new knowledge. And we also do need new ways of producing those knowledge as well. And it's not supposed to be just an abstract form of knowledge, but it's knowledge that should really be connecting us together. We're at an age where we're talking about the failures of multilateralism, and we need to rethink and reimagine other forms of multilateralism. And knowledge for me is a very important anchor. Because we have to, as I said before, believe in this transformative power and what it could do if we do it properly. The second word that comes to mind for me is still part of your name, and it's the word Earth. And Johan has mentioned quite a lot around what we do at the Earth Commission, and I would say our approach of bringing out systems, talking about our systems disruptions, but talking about them as a duo, that our systems disruption cannot be talked about just in terms of safety only, but we have to look at it from the lens of justice as well. The two have to come together. But the word Earth for me, I think it's an even more bigger. It has even a lot more resonance than just associating it with system. I think the earth for me is the foundation of our civilization. It shapes who we are, how we live, and ultimately the world that we want, this world that we want to thrive in, it's also shaped by the earth and the relationship we have with the earth. And the relationship, the Anthropocene to a large extent reminds us that the relationship between humanity and the earth system is no longer passive. We are shaping the planet, and to a large extent, we can say that the planet is also shaping us. I live in Africa. I'm based in Ghana, and we can see a lot of very vivid evidence of how that is happening. In Africa, this relationship is not an abstract scientific proposition. It's a lived reality, because more than half of the continent's labor force depends on agriculture. And millions of people also rely on forest, on water, on rangelands, and on ecosystem for their livelihood. But the earth is again, as I said, is more than just a biophysical system. It becomes even more tangible because this is the land beneath our feet. It's the forest that sustains us. It's the river that shapes our settlements, and it's the landscape that carries our history. And this is why the safety aspect, the safe planetary boundaries matter, because for me they define more than just ecological conditions that make human flourishing possible. They they help us understand that healthy societies depend on healthy earth systems, and that crossing these boundaries, and Johan has talked about the transgressions, and increases the risk of insecurity. It increases the risk of displacement and conflict. And these things are all interconnected, like I said before. And my final word is society. Or perhaps I should say society with a capital S, because my hope is that in this pursuit, in this platform, that we do not reduce society to a small s. Science has really helped in transforming our understanding of the Earth system, and that is something to celebrate. But the purpose of understanding the Earth is ultimately to help us improve human condition. And we shouldn't forget that. Societies are not simply objects of transformation. They are the reasons why transformation matter. So this becomes even more important in a world of growing geopolitical fragmentation, as I said. So sustainable transformations, we have to bear in mind that they're not unfolding in a neutral world. They are shaped by power. Who defines the agenda? Who sets the rules? Who bears the cost? Who captures the opportunities? So my hope for this platform is that it becomes a place where Earth and society are understood as equal partners. And I think Barbara somewhat alluded to that, where science informs society without seeking to master it. We have to be careful that we don't make, as important as science is, that we don't become subservient to science. But where science is informing society, where the questions of power, the questions of justice and human well-being are all standing along the questions of planetary stability. And that's why for us this equation is so important. You can't have safety if you don't have justice. It's non-negotiable. And ultimately the understanding, and this is my last point, that the test of a habitable Anthropocene is not whether the planet remains habitable in the abstract. It's whether societies can function, can flourish fairly and justly within planetary boundaries. So with this, Johan, I'll stop here and basically just say that I wish the platform tremendous success. I wish it becomes a space where these rigorous science, diverse knowledge systems are all coming together in that sort of shared purpose in the way that we would want to see it. so that helps us in moving forward towards justice and safety, all in that sort of ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Fatima. I think we should stay in close contact with Johan and with you, since you are just reflected so many points, which makes our platform particular and special, because of course the scientific community needs to evolve in disciplines. It also needs to do assessment for certain aspects, but I think the bridge and the interrelationship between Earth and society is nicely explained. And I think we should be careful in considering both the same with a focus, and I like the term habitable Anthropocene. We should really see this interlinkage. And Johan already highlighted, as you did, the justice perspective, and therefore the social sciences are very, very important. And therefore we move from the term integrated Earth system science to a research which balance research on Earth and societies, and particular focusing on the interlinkages. And you also added the term balance the two. And this is very useful for us. And thank you so much for your thoughts. And I'm happy that we have recorded them as Johan's contribution, so that we can further benefit from it. Thank you so much. And also for making it during the attendance of the London conference. Thank you very much. Now, I am very happy to hand over to Lion Gordon. Lion Gordon is the director of the Stockholm Resilience Centre and the director of the Kurt Bergfors Professor in Sustainable Science at Stockholm University, Sweden. Her research expertise on water and food system currently focuses primarily on the role of food system transformations for public and planetary health. She's one of the commissioners of the EAT Lancet Commission on Healthy, Sustainable and Just Food Systems, the Lancet. Lion Gordon, thank you very much for making it. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jochen, and thanks to everyone that is gathering here today. I think it's been clear in the first opening remarks just how important this time in history is for us to really turn the current crisis around and make it possible to do the science for a truly livable planet and for human well-being into the future. I actually did put together a few pictures to underline my points in the talk, and I will base it a bit more on the sort of history of science that are linking social and ecological systems together. And I really think that you have an so important niche and contribution of doing this at the Earth system scale, because much of the work that has been done so far are more place-based. I wanted to just start making it a bit more personal and less Earth system, because I think most of us in this room and on this call, we recognize most of the global challenges, maybe not as pressing as they are, but they're with us every day. So right now I'm spending this 1 week of the year in my little summer cottage just outside Stockholm, and I do this to hide out and get some research and reading and writing done. I think this week is sort of a week that builds my own resilience for the rest of the year, a time to connect to the place here and also connect to the work that I'm doing more deeply than sitting in lots of meetings that I think a lot of us are doing all the time. One of the most important things for me this week is the morning swim. And I always go down to the water and have a dip. And this morning, this is what met me. And I don't know how well you see it, but as you can see, it's just green on the surface here. I grew up in this place. I've been here since the 70s, and there was no algal blooms when I grew up, at least not that I remember. And now every year we have the best days of the year where we can't go swimming anymore. And this is just such an illustration, I think, of the losses, many small losses that accumulate for most of us, and that really hits us of what we are, the beauty of the world and the things that we really appreciate and help us carry our own resilience forward, how that is being undermined right now. And it is across the whole globe. When we started the Stockholm Resilience Centre, and Johan Rockström was the founder of the center together with Carl Folke, I would say that this was actually one of the core founding pictures for our research. This is an artist, Tone Bjørndam. She's a Norwegian artist that interpreted one of the scientific figures that kind of form the basis of our work. And what she's illustrating here is the biosphere as having the boundaries of society, and that society is embedded in the biosphere, and then you see in the circle in the middle the economy, and how the economy is embedded in society. What you don't see on this picture, but here, is that this whole sculpture actually hangs from the ceiling. And what she really wanted to illustrate here is how we can cut off the cord to the economy. We still have a society, maybe not as good as what we have now. We still have a biosphere. We can cut the cords here to the society. There is still a biosphere, but it wouldn't be livable maybe for the people. And then, but if we cut and undermine the whole biosphere, we won't be able to have anything on this planet. And I think that's just a good illustration of our intimate link to the whole biosphere. As has been mentioned across the introductory talks right now, we live right now in a situation with polycrisis, and they're hitting us one after another. So for Stockholm Resilience Centre, the core of our work has always been rooted in resilience thinking. And I think this is also what you have in this platform. And here I just want to stress the three different facets of resilience that is important to work on simultaneously. The capacity to cope with these disturbances, to adapt with them, but also how we transform. And I think Fatima's remarks also on how we instill hope and can see positive futures are really important to build that. Resilience, the way that we've been working on it at Stockholm Resilience Centre, is really rooted in research all the way back to the 1990s, where some of the first books on linking social and ecological systems came out, led by Frikret Berkes from Canada and Carl Folke here from Stockholm, Sweden. But also that there has been lots of work that are linking resilience to practice and science that also came out in the late 1990s and early 2000s that form the basis for what I'm thinking that we're now putting together, and that this platform will also do. I also wanted to mention that there was a new society launched recently that's called the Society for Social Ecological Systems, or SOCSES. And I think this provides a really interesting parallel platform to InTRES. And I would love to see more collaborations with between these platforms into the future. Because I think the strength of the SOCSES network is really place-based research that's anchored in different landscapes across the planet. Well, what I understand for you is more of the global Earth system processes. And it is when we understand these processes and how they interact between the localities and the Earth system that we really have capacity to transform. A lot of the work that we are doing at SRC is also translating science to different implementation for decision makers. Here's one of the latest projects we worked on that's called the Resilience Science Must Knows, where we brought together networks from Future Earth and Global Resilience Partnership. And that's also what I hear is important in this platform. And I would just like to stress the importance for this network to really invest in the infrastructure of how we bring people together, and also in the skills of scientists that allow us to communicate and interact carefully with and in a deep way with decision makers. So with these remarks, I just want to say thanks and wish you all the best luck, and I would love to stay in touch and collaborate into the future. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Lion, for this personal start, and then for developing the problem from the Stockholm Resilience Centre perspective. And I think, of course, we have already done a mapping of institutions, and we also have seen your new network, and we will certainly get in touch with this new network. And we also are currently publishing a literature review where we have seen the central role of the Stockholm Resilience Centre over years in bringing together the different perspectives of Earth system on the one hand side and societies on the other. And so, yes, I think there's common interest, and therefore I'm happy to continue with the collaboration. I think Johan and Dieter Gerten are already in touch with you. With this, we come to our fourth speaker, and I'm very happy that he is with us. This is Chukwumerije Okereke. He's director of the Center for Climate Development at the Alex Ekwueme Federal University, Dufu Alike Ikwo, Ebonyi State, Nigeria, and professor of global governance and public policy at Bristol University, United Kingdom. His work is devoted to understanding the mix of policies, strategies, and institutional arrangements that can help to address climate change and natural resources degradation in Africa in the context of sustainable development and Africa's structural economic transformation. Among other multiple roles, he is member of the steering committee of the Earth System Governance Project, and therefore we are very happy to have you here. Welcome, Chukwumerije Okereke. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Johan. I want to congratulate you and your team for starting this new project, InTRES, which I understand is to generate transdisciplinary, transformative knowledge to help to lower societal pressures on the planetary system, while also doing so in a way that are consistent to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. You guys have been very, very much at the forefront of transformative research in the Earth system science. And so I do not expect anything less than a fantastic set of works that will shape understanding and action on these multi-crises, as people have been saying. But let me offer you some thoughts that might help guide as we progress. And it's probable that Professor Fatima Denton would have touched upon this. First of all, we continue to see the lopsided, a huge amount of gap and lopsidedness in knowledge generation and production with regards to sustainability in the world, with about 96% of publications, for example, on just transitions, coming from North America and Europe. This is based on the analysis that I have recently published with my co-authors. The hegemony of knowledge production on the issue of just transition, which I think is mirrored if you pick any other key item on sustainability, means that we do not have enough diversified knowledge set, or what I will call knowledge solidarity, that is required to bring the right range of diversity of opinions and views and traditions to bear on the way we solve this problem. Many years ago, a good friend of mine resigned from being an IPCC author because all his attempts, as he put it, to try and bring his colleagues to see that clean cooking is as much important as what happens with, nuclear power, was rebuffed. And this was at a time that about 3.6 billion people were still cooking, and maybe still are cooking, with three-poured dirty fuels. But if you read the IPCC's report of that age, where he resigned, you will see several pages devoted to nuclear power, decommissioning, and only a fraction of a page devoted to clean cooking. I was astounded to find recently that more money goes into the research, and Joaquin, I don't have, this is not intended for a pun, but more money goes into research on how to prevent hair loss than how to cure cancer or HIV. Okay. So this illustrates the way in which money follows, in which research or funding of research follows consumption. When you then analyze the content of the just transition public policies that have been put out there, you see that although there has been a growing diversity in conceptions and definitions, the preponderance, the majority of them remains rooted in STS studies, socio-technical transition studies, which is about decommissioning, transiting from a post-carbon world to a what we call to a post-carbon world. But this is not a problem facing most of Africa. It's not about transitioning to a post-carbon world. The big problem facing all of Africa is how to build up their economic base, which is required to address overarching issues of poverty, and to do that in a way that is consistent with the Paris goal. This is a complete set of different sets of problems than the ones that are being tackled by our friends in the global north when they are talking about just transition. We also see, crucially, that what we are experiencing now is what I could call the onset of green extractivism, where the same kind of dynamics that shape, fossil fuel extraction, where frontline oil-bearing communities and countries are being sacrificed for oil prices to remain low, and the process of extraction is being replicated with respect to critical mineral mining and processing. And so the impacts are being borne far away from where the benefits are accrued. So we must center justice and equity and the interest research. And we must do that in a way that is sensitive to the diversity of the development history and trajectory and starting point of various nations. Otherwise, we run the risk, and I fear we already are moving in that direction, where the attempt to decarbonize, to reduce this pressure, as you well put it in your concept note, is done at the expense of the well-being, the development of a vast proportion of population of the world community. It is important to bear in mind that you can actually depress carbon footprint of the globe while increasing inequality. People sometimes glibly assume that these two are the same, but they are not, as Professor Andy Robson tells us clearly in his book on fairness and futurity. You can achieve a much lower carbon world where inequality is much more exacerbated or greater. But you can also deal with inequality in a way that actually exacerbates environmental problems. The question, therefore, is how can you marry the two in a way that both addresses inequality but also keeps our carbon footprint within the planetary boundary? I don't see enough research addressing these two in a sufficiently powerful way. And so I hope that we can use this platform to build a much more diversified base of research that pays our attention not just on the problem as defined by our friends in the West, but that captures the unique starting point and governance challenges, that we find in the rest of the world. And my last point is that when I look at the trajectory of the development of global environmental regime, where I am specialized in my work, I see what I am calling a gradual erosion of the value of common but differentiated responsibility, and with this principle being supplanted by what I'm calling now the common but shifted responsibility. The common but shifted responsibility is the new norm, if you like, of global environmental regime cooperation, where the burden for action is being shifted to those that are least responsible in causing it and least capable in addressing the solution. And this is happening through a range of insidious mechanisms and logic, including unilateral trade measures, including ICDS regimes, justice, international dispute regimes, but also through green extractivism, as I have mentioned. And so I hope that one key focus will be to ensure that we center normative principles of global justice as a key basis for finding solutions to depress our carbon footprint while also achieving global sustainable development. Thank you very much again, and I wish you all the best as you make progress in this newly established research agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Okereke, for your insights. And I think you particularly emphasize the need also to be more inclusive in the transformation discourse. And this was exactly the reason why we said, okay, we should not stick on the expertise of the Leibniz Association, but Leibniz could provide a platform for exchange. And this is exactly why we have invited you and to enrich our views. And I think it would be very nice also to stay in contact in the future. You're already in contact with Miriam Hansen, as I know, and so to also link to the Earth System Governance Project. Now, we have heard 4 renowned international experts, and we were talking about the future. And I think this is the right moment also to give the floor to a young colleague who is, will experience the future, which we are currently discussing. And this is Hanne Dan C. Alas. She is a scientific staff at the Leibniz Institute for Tropospheric Research with a PhD on mobile measurement of black carbon and particulate matters. She was very active in the working group Atmosphere and Societies of the Research Network, and now is engaged in expanding the research on the InTRES platform. Hanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Professor Schanze. Good day, everyone, and to our distinguished guests, a warm welcome to you all. As an early career researcher myself, I am rightfully inspired by the key messages that were delivered today, so thank you very much. And now I have the honor of shining the spotlight on our promising early career researchers and what perspectives they have within the InTRES platform. So early career researchers, they bring the energy, curiosity, and boldness required to solve the world's most complex problems. And when we invest in researchers at the start of their journey, we are not just supporting individuals, we are securing the future of discovery. Early career researchers, they have unbound creativity and fresh perspectives, which would drive innovation. And I'm addressing them now. Hopefully they are here with us. And you have the methodological agility to challenge old status quos. You have unchallenged idealism, and your cohorts are very diverse. And most importantly, you are the majority of the scientific workforce. And this is the profile of someone who has the audacity to pioneer. And this is what we want in InTRES. So within InTRES, you will be in an interdisciplinary safe haven. You will have the opportunity to run bold cross-sectoral projects that all school institutions might reject. You will have access to the networks you need to build research with communities, not just for them, through a co-design infrastructure. And you will have the chance to collaborate among diverse individuals who share a unified vision for impact within an impact-driven culture that you will also help develop. What does that look like in practice? So here I briefly show you the broad spectrum of themes covered within InTRES where you can be involved. As Johan mentioned, I am personally involved in the Atmosphere and Societies Working Group. And here are some examples of the research that we are doing. First is the MODCOMS project, which is focused on monitoring the impacts of coastal and marine-based economic developments on air and water quality in Bangladesh. And the next, we conducted a literature review on air pollution as an Earth and society's interlinkage, exploring societal aspects such as governance and equity. But we also touched upon how space debris from deorbiting satellites are contributing to the atmospheric pollution. So just within our working group, the interdisciplinarity of our research work is already evident. And now, with the InTRES platform, one example of how we can advance our research is by bringing air pollution and social science data together in a meaningful way. And this we can do by cross-collaborating with another working group, Infrastructure of Interest, and also Societal Resilience in the Earth System, for instance. So we will be able to extend the data that we have to include the Global South, which can be made possible within InTRES. And finally, this international platform will provide the ideal ecosystem to conduct interdisciplinary research. You will be empowered within InTRES to forge your own path and have autonomy to upscale your contribution in any way you want. You can organize your own events, form new networks, and lead your own initiatives. InTRES will foster an environment where you can develop your leadership skills and build independence as a scientist. And here we believe that when we empower you, our ECRs, we empower our research cultures. So just to conclude, our commitment is simple: to give the next generation of thinkers a seat at the table so they can lead the breakthroughs of tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.
Fantastic. Thank you much, Hani Alas, for this invitive and encouraging talk. I think we should also be committed to support your generation in the development of the platform, and I'm very happy to have you involved. And I hand over now to the last contribution. This will be provided by Rahid Shehayeb. He is the scientific coordinator of the Leibniz Research Network Earth and Societies, with a PhD on indicator-based drought and heat risk assessment framework for ecosystem services of urban green infrastructure. He was and is highly committed and strongly engaged in the establishment of the InTRES platform. Rahid, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Johan, and warm greetings to everyone from my side. We have seen all these interesting speakers, the keynotes from the speakers, and we saw all the global challenges that we are facing, and as well as the scientific and the research needs that we still have and need to follow up on. And one way that we as a Leibniz Research Network, Earth and Societies, propose to approach it is through an integrative and transformative approach, having the societies at the center and its interlinkages to the Earth system through pressures from the society on the Earth system, and also impacts and risks on societies from the Earth system. And we propose 3 core research areas and knowledge spheres, starting with the system knowledge, with multisystemic approaches for analyzing Earth and societies. Then with target knowledge, including system-based scientific rationales for societal agreements on planetary boundaries and societal goals, as well as transformative knowledge, with systematic innovations fostering societal transformations of pressures, impacts, and risks. And with this concepts, we have the current thematic areas distributed over the working groups, with working group 1 focusing on the concepts, methods, and models of the InTRES. Then we have atmosphere and societies, as my colleague Hani Alas presented. We have sustainable use of oceans and marginal seas, freshwater and societies, biodiversity and societies. We have also bioeconomy within the Earth system, urban-rural interdependencies within the Earth system, societal resilience as well in the Earth system, and the research infrastructure of interest, which is also very cross-cutting over these different thematic areas. And we warmly invite you and welcome you to be involved in our platform, either as participants, as individual participants, or as institutional members. Or also if there are existing networks, this could be also included or affiliated as global interest hubs. And to give you an overview of what the current or future activities are, and also example of some events that we are planning to have, starting with the network mapping that the Earth and Societies Research Network has done, and also drafting the strategy and the terms of reference of the InTRES platform. And here it will be revisited with new partners as well that will join. We also launched the website of the InTRES platform, and also the ongoing partner invitations and involvement from across the globe. And in parallel, where the core research of the platform is within these thematic areas and working groups, they have regular meetings, each on their own pace and own activity, and also possible mobilities for working group members to foster communications and collaborations more. And just to give some examples on events with the current today's event, the launch event, and also the planned first general assembly of the platform, which should happen in the fourth quarter of this year, where the strategic decisions are made, basically. And also some examples such as lecture series, panel series, and also the international conference and summer school that we will plan in the future. So with that, I would also invite you again to visit our website, also get in touch with us through the email, or also on the form on our website. You can directly scan the QR code to do so. And thank you very much. I hand back to Johan.
Thank you very much, Rachid, for your outlook. And this brings us to the last point of this launch event, the closure. I would like to particularly thank our distinguished speakers for their insightful and encouraging messages. I think they underline the timeliness of the efforts to foster integrative and transformative research on the interlinkages of the Earth system and societies. I would also like to thank the members and participants of the Leibniz Research Network with the two co-spokespersons, Dieter Gerten and Miriam Hansen, for their continuous activities to make this platform happen. I'm grateful for the financial support and also more general support by the Leibniz Association, as Barbara Sturm, as Vice President, has shared today, which we will also use to facilitate the establishment of the platform in the future. I'm impressed by the strong interest indicated by numerous international organizations to be involved as member institutions in global interest hubs. Also, we try to settle the meeting mid of the day to allow colleagues from the global East and the global West to participate. Only few could make it. I'm very happy that Juliette Rooney Vargas from Massachusetts is attending. Also, it's very early in the morning for her. There is the Anthropocene navigator from the Vrije University of Amsterdam by Professor Sert Kloining. He has a strong interest to participate. University of Bordeaux, Montaigne. Fabien Colombo is participating. Then I already mentioned University of Massachusetts Lowell. The Australian National University Canberra, Australia, is interested in many more. So it's really getting a movement. And finally, please let me thank all participants of this launch event and the audience watching the video recording later on in the future. Please feel free to contact us. All developments will be shared via our website. Rachid has already referred to it. I wish you all the best and thank you so much for your attendance and for your future support Take care and goodbye.